a very weird dynamic for me to be like not in person with you and just have
I
you
know.
like right here.
I know. I know. I'll just have to fly to Switzerland for the next
I
one. It's
know.
fine.
That's it. No, but welcome back, Evie Gonzalez. We are so excited to have you back.
So excited to be back.
I mean, our Kiki episode so far is like one of my favorites, especially because it was in studio. All the topics were
Mhm.
so good.
Mhm.
And like we mentioned then, we wanted you right back here because of all of your fountain of knowledge. Your brain just has so much information that us mommies and mommies to be, parents in general, can just take advantage of and just learn from and actually let it sit with us. Because when it comes to maternal mental health in general, which is something that's very relevant for me in pregnancy right now, I feel like we all hear different stories, but we feel like that won't happen to me or it'll be different to
Mhm.
me. So having you on and sharing your 20 years of experience in the field of maternal and child health is going to be so helpful for all my listeners and for me too.
Mhm.
My opening cues for my guests, we had that last time. We know you're a
Yes.
Cancer, we know your wellness routine.
Yes.
But this time, how can you explain to the moms and mommies to be what it is that you do with work that helps mommies and mommies to be so they know what to expect from some of the information we're getting here?
So my role has definitely evolved.
Mhm.
I began as a perinatal, like, mental health coordinator,
Mm.
where I was going into the community and educating parents and professionals on perinatal mood and anxiety disorders, which is what we call PMADS.
Okay.
Um, then what I did, I worked with my supervisor and we created what's called an emotional health phone support program in North Jersey. So
Okay.
basically, how the program worked was anyone who delivered in one of the 20, I think at the time it was 21 birthing hospitals in North
Oh.
Jersey, they were given an opportunity to consent to receiving a follow-up phone call from
Oh.
me.
Okay, nice.
And
Yes.
so yeah, and so we'd kind of like develop that program on top of all the education. Then COVID hit
Mm.
and we had to modify the program where we started to then offer virtual support groups
Okay, nice.
because it was an opportunity where moms could kind of get that social interaction in an environment that they felt comfortable. Because during COVID, one of the things that we were seeing were a lot of parents were feeling very, this is not what I thought it was going to be like. I thought I was going to have this grand baby shower and I thought that my mom was going to be able to come and help. And, I thought family were going to come by and see the baby. And that was not the experience at all. So we started developing virtual support groups. And then I ran those. And then I eventually got promoted to be the manager of that program.
Okay.
And then, so then I still was kind of running groups, but it was more like running a team, like running my team, etc. And then eventually I got promoted again to be a senior manager of public health programs. So now not only does the postpartum depression program fall under me, it's more, I also have quite a few other programs that fall under me. My role is different now because I don't necessarily have a lot of client interaction.
Okay.
However, I'm very much more on the policy side. So I've been on panels with First Lady Tammy Murphy talking about, perinatal mood and anxiety disorders. I've done some grant writing. There's an initiative called Mind the Gap, and I'm part of like that committee to try to get legislation passed when it comes to perinatal mental health. So it's very different from what I was doing, but I think all that direct contact has allowed me to come in with a perspective to really help like these policies and write these grants and make sure that we're giving the best level of care to moms and knowing what the barriers are for moms to get connected to mental health services because that's still such a huge thing.
Definitely. And thinking about them back to, like, the COVID, like, the COVID mommies, I can't even imagine, like, just how starkly different everything
Oh,
what
yeah.
just even just for you guys to kind of reinvent the wheel of, like, how can we be more supportive? How can we build more of a community for them? It's so important, like, as, a mommy myself, there's nothing better than to hear other people going through the same things that you're going through,
Mhm.
or hearing from a specialist that what I am going through is quite normal and not
Mhm.
something that I need to be ashamed of, or that, just the hormonal thoughts become very erratic during postpartum, so I can't imagine even with, like, COVID and a thick layer
Oh,
over it,
yeah.
but
I
mhm.
think the statistics pre-COVID were that 1 in 7 women were experiencing postpartum depression, and I think post-COVID, it's, like, down to 1 in 5 because, I mean, there
Wow.
were at the time, I mean, there were women delivering with masks on. Can you imagine pushing with a mask on?
No.
And then there were women that were showing up to the hospital unaware of the policy that the hospital had because, they policies were changing every day given what was
Yeah.
going on that had to deliver by themselves and their partner and their family weren't there. And that in itself can be a very traumatic experience.
1,000%.
Yeah.
A thou You
Yeah.
already, as a woman, feel so alone because the experience in itself is happening in
Mhm.
your body, regardless to whether your partner is
Yeah.
super supportive or not, and for them to not physically be in the room when all of that is going down, that is so my heart breaks for that. It really does. It really
Yeah.
does.
Yeah. It was a very very tough time listening to those stories, listening to what the women went through. I'm glad that we're moving past it, but I do think there is still that residual trauma and that sense of loss of those individuals that didn't have the experience that they thought they were going to have.
Yeah, there's a ton of
Yeah.
processing that needs to be done around that,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
when you have these support groups, now that it's, I know, very much past COVID and stuff, do you feel like they stayed just as utilized in terms of women seeking out the support group? Did it grow? Did it like, how do you 'cause for me, right, like, I feel like when I was in my postpartum stages with Leandro, I have to be honest with you, I don't think I realized I was going through postpartum until it was way in retrospect. If someone told me to reach out to a support group, I would have been like, "I don't need it." Like, like that
Mhm.
kind of thing, and I can
Mhm.
see COVID making it a thing where this is so different than the normal situation, but realistically, any postpartum experience is traumatic and needs
It
support around it.
is.
It doesn't
Yeah.
need to be a global pandemic to make it this starking difference for you to actually need resources and, support around you.
So it's so interesting because one of the things that we noticed, or I'm noticing now, is that a lot of the moms that were in the groups during COVID are still attending pregnant with their second or third child.
Oh, okay,
So I
nice.
know. So it's just so wonderful. And I do feel that they still, really serve a purpose and even more so because they're virtual. So I think it takes out the barrier of now I got to get myself ready. Now I got to get the baby ready. If the
Yeah,
weather is bad, do I really want to go to this? And, I think it takes that away. So I have to say that the groups are very well attended.
that's
I
great.
also think it's a testament to my team that runs the groups because I mean, these moms are very loyal to them. And that's
Oh,
the other thing too is that if you're going to go to a group and you don't know anyone and you're going on a virtual platform where there's already this level of anonymity, you want to feel like I do feel the group facilitator makes or breaks the group. because if
Okay. Yeah.
I do feel like that. And I also do feel, Laura, like you do need to try a couple groups to find which one is going to fit for you. But I think that my facilitators are just very good. They're very well trained in perinatal mental health. And I just think the moms love them. I mean, there are moms, like I've been in this role as in leadership for years now, that I had them in my group,
My God.
and when they see me, because we try to do in-person activities as much as possible, as like bonding, that come
Okay.
up to me, oh Evie, I had you, blah blah blah, I have my third kid now. And it's just,
Oh.
so even with all the changing of the group facilitator, they're still staying. So clearly it's like a seamless transition for them. I am a huge fan of groups because I think it's important to be surrounded by people who are going to validate your feelings. I think when you're in the house all day, every day, and you're alone, and freaking social media, where like you're seeing, let's say, someone who delivered around the same time as you, who looks like they're like not struggling, and is body bounce back, because that's another one.
No, it's like a highlight, it's like a superficial, well, not that it necessarily can't exist or happen, but it is so easy with the hormones and just being a woman in society, period, to be comparing yourself and to be yearning what someone else looks like they have,
Yeah.
right? Because it's all from the outside.
And that's something that we discuss a lot in group, is that like I say to the moms, are you going to post a picture where you look like shit? You're
Yeah.
not. You know what I'm saying?
No
Like,
one's doing
you're
yeah.
not. You're going to post the most beautiful picture where your family looks exquisite, where you look
1000%.
great. Exactly. You're going to filter the F out of it, and then you're going to post it. Little do you know that the child was having a mental breakdown all over the
Mhm.
floor, but they're not going to post that. Like when you're
No.
posting on social media, you're posting the best version of yourselves. And I just would love to see moms not do that, and let's post how it is. Let's keep it all the way real, and
1000, 1000%.
yeah, let's, because you'll see that you're not the only one.
It's so much more resonating, and I think the react because go ahead, by all means, do the highlight reel, do the perfect pictures, but, like,
Yeah.
with just for, like, the women out there and around you, like, give the reality, like, the Instagram versus reality moment because
Oh
it's just
yeah.
so necessary, and even knowing that, I know it's probably hard for mommies to still be like, "But still, I'm still gonna be comparing against this highlight reel version." But I love that you guys talk about just it seems like there's probably a broad things that is spoken about in the group, but that social media and all of that and the social
Oh
seems like
yeah.
social pressures and everything are with it because that is just very relevant on the brain when you're going through postpartum. It really is. And I was actually thinking before when you said that it really depends on the group facilitator, like what would a new mommy to a support group expect like in her first like even if it's not the support group she like fully lands on because I totally agree with you with maybe you need to try on a few for size but what can a mommy who hasn't been to a support group kind of expect on her first day or expect to kind of feel or gain an experience from even at least one round of it for her to just dip her toe in and see what it's like because like I said before if I know that there are if mommies like myself who may just be stubborn especially in the first postpartum period because you really are in the complete unknown you have nothing
Yeah.
to compare this to other than the people around you and even at that you're not comparing it at a complete like one-to-one ratio it's very different.
So I think the first thing that a mom has to figure out is, what type of group am I looking for? Am I
Mm.
looking for, because there's a lot of different types. Am I struggling with breastfeeding? And I really would like a group
Oh.
that's what we're focusing on, is breastfeeding and getting breastfeeding support. Um, am I looking for a group that I need. It's a therapeutic group. Like, I know that there's something going on that's deeper than just typical like baby blues and transition into motherhood. Do I want a therapeutic group? And then do I want a peer-to-peer group? Where it's moms that have been in your position that are facilitating. Like, is that what I'm looking for?
Oh,
Or am I just looking for a new moms group in general where it's a little bit of education and it's a safe space for me to kind of talk about what it is to be pregnant or a new parent and vent? So that's where you kind of first need to decide what exactly it is that you're looking for.
okay.
Now, the way that the groups are run where I work is the latter. It's a safe space. You come. There's always some sort of like icebreaker activity, which will
Hmm,
get people talking. It can be something fun, like if you were stranded on an island, what is a piece of music or a book that you would want to have with you?
okay.
To something a little bit more serious, like the question of what do you wish you knew when you were pregnant, or what would you have done differently?
Mm,
That will generate discussion. It's interesting because when we started doing this, staff was coming in with a structured agenda, myself included, when I was running groups, and we saw that that wasn't working. We
okay.
saw that what these women wanted was a safe space to talk about this transition and to get advice from each other.
Just like
And
a free
that's,
flow, more
yeah,
fluid.
it's a free for all, it's fluid, and they've just started to become their own network. The moms in some of the groups exchange phone numbers and have their own little chat to give each other support. Some mothers, get together on their own, which when the concept of a virtual group came out, I was like, oh, this is going to work. People aren't going to bond. It was the complete opposite of that.
That's
So
amazing.
I think that's what I've seen is I think that women just want a safe space to go meet other women, socialize, and just kind of talk about how hard this transition is. It doesn't matter if this is your first kid, your second kid, your third kid, etc. Each baby is different, each birth experience is different, each postpartum is different, each pregnancy is different. So come, and talk and learn and laugh. I mean, there's a lot of laughing that happens with my team that run the groups. And come as you are. A lot of them don't put their cameras on, and we're totally okay with that because we want you to come as your authentic self, and the important thing is for you to come. I don't want, like, we don't want people to feel like they can't, that they need to be dressed to the nine for the camera. Like, no,
Yeah.
come as you
No.
are. If you're comfortable to put your camera on, you can. You don't have to. If you don't want to talk in the first group, you don't have to. But for me, if a group is free, what's the harm in trying it out?
Oh,
Try it out.
absolutely.
And if it's not your cup of tea, it's not your cup of tea, but give it a few sessions, give it a few sessions and then see. But I love them.
There really is nothing to lose,
No,
just for
exactly.
trying it on for size. Like, you
Yeah,
go, you realize this isn't for me, or you go and you're like, actually, let me go to the next one and see what I can get from it. It's
exactly.
And I
Exactly.
really love that you said I didn't real this is how dense I am. I didn't realize that there were, like, tailored groups to certain issues around postpartum, which obviously
Hmm.
makes so much sense, like, with the breastfeeding or, the other
Hmm.
groups that you had mentioned, because I think a lot of us will have, like, a heightened awareness or concern about one thing over the other, and to just have that ability to have a group that's kind of focused on that if you're not ready to have, like, just an open, safe space about everything, like, that can even bring you a little bit to dip your toe in the water that way, like, "Oh, well, I'll try one on for
Yeah.
size 'cause I know I have this one concern," right? Like,
Exactly. I know that sometimes, the groups will bring in like speakers, like talking about like nutrition and breastfeeding, pelvic
Mm.
floor therapy, you know,
Ooh,
to,
yeah.
yeah, you know, all that kind of stuff, doulas,
Necessary.
like, yeah, because a lot of women, especially with pelvic floor therapy, they don't realize like how important it is. And,
So important.
you know, they come in and they talk about that. So it's like exposing, you know, people who may not have heard anything about pelvic floor therapy and the importance of getting connected to that.
It takes certain conversations and certain exposure to people talking about it for things to click. It's
Yeah.
so crazy because, you mentioned doula, but, like, this pregnancy, I really didn't put a lot of thought into my birth until about, like, 3 or 4 weeks ago, because I really
Hmm.
wanted to let go of the reins in comparison to my last pregnancy where I was so, like, I wanted to control the fact that I was gonna have a vaginal and it was gonna be this and I had acupuncture, blah, blah, blah. So I think I almost went to, like, the pendulum swinging the other way this time where I was like, "I'm not even
Yeah.
thinking about it. Whatever happens, happens." And then I got lunch with a girlfriend of mine, I think back when I was like 34 weeks or 33 weeks. And she was like, she also had a C-section for her first birth. And she's like, yeah, I got a doula this time because she's really passionate about wanting to have a VBAC and trying for a VBAC. And I was like, wait, maybe I should hit up a doula because
Yeah.
what if this baby comes out vaginal? What if I do go on to spontaneous birth, which spontaneous labor, I did not do, like, I was induced last time. So it's almost like sometimes just one little conversation, wherever you're sitting that day, your perspective that day, someone can say something and land so differently with you than like the next day with somebody else, how you kind of like are open to new information about things. And it's very interesting. And I love that these groups provide that type of, dynamic.
Hmm. And because a lot of people aren't aware of what a doula is, and I mean, it's just such a fabulous resource.
Yeah,
And
let's talk about that because
okay.
now it's kinda, like, relevant for me a little bit, or
Yeah.
very much so, not a little bit. Give us your, professional thoughts around a doula, what the stats are, what you personally think about having a doula or not, like, let the ladies know what, true benefits could come from having a doula around.
So a doula is really there to provide you with physical and emotional support. There is research that shows that women tend to have better birth outcomes. They tend to suffer less with postpartum perinatal mood and anxiety disorders as a result of a doula. Now, there are different types of doulas. You have some doulas that are full spectrum, meaning they can cover prenatal, they can cover labor and delivery, they can cover postpartum. And then you have some, and I believe, don't quote me, but I do believe a full spectrum doula also can cover loss, but I'm not 100% sure. Then
Okay.
there's doulas that are just there during the pregnancy, which I believe is what you're having, and that they're going to come and be there for you the entire time that you're giving birth.
Yeah.
And then I think they do like one or two postpartum visits, correct?
Yeah, so my doula does offer the full spectrum, but since I had come to her very late in the game, I asked
Okay.
her for a tailored package because I was really just seeking a prenatal, like pre-labor, time with her and preparations and all of that, and then wanting her there during the labor.
During the labor.
He
Okay.
Yeah, but she does offer, like, she's way spiritual, she does, like, a closing of the bones ceremony, like, she offers a lot of different spiritual aspects of it, like, she'll even come to, like, your baby shower and have, like, this
Oh, I
beautiful
love that.
welcoming with your friends and your family,
Yeah.
and just really she loves integrating herself into it all, in a really nice, beautiful way. But since here we have midwives that are covered by insurance that come to our home to see us for the first 6 weeks after birth. I opted to not have her come post, but I told her, "But if I change my mind, I'll let you know, because I may feel that after the birth that I want her helping hand because it seems like we do have a connection and, it might be worth it." So
Yeah. And so a postpartum doula will come into the home, is there for a few weeks, and the postpartum doula is really there to support you, and you sort of navigate what kind of help you want. They will help with laundry, if you want them to come and
Mm,
spend the night, they can do that. They're there to, engage in that conversation about how you're feeling emotionally, and they're just there to really take care of mom so you can have an opportunity to spend time with the baby, you know?
okay,
And
okay.
then, and I do know some doulas, if not all, that are postpartum, they will spend the night. Like they'll come a couple times at night and take care of the baby for the nighttime feedings just to give mom and dad a little bit of a break.
So helpful, especially in the first few weeks.
Yeah.
It's so chaotic at home. Just having any type of support that can help you with, like, household chores, like, I know we're on the doula topic, but whether it's doula or
Oh,
family or friend
yeah.
that's, like, willing to just accept it, like, women, we can do it all, but we don't have to do it all, and to just, like, lean on that in the first few weeks so you can just focus on baby is insanely important, like, or just valuable.
So I think one of the biggest things that I do try to that in the past that I really encourage those that are pregnant is to really sit down, and I say a plan in quotes because we all know that having a baby is unpredictable. You can have everything planned and then
Yeah,
your plan falls to crap.
yeah.
But I do think, in my professional opinion, when you're pregnant, it is important to have these conversations. So what are the conversations? One is, how long, if you have a partner, how long is your partner going to be off?
Mm,
Okay. That is very important to know. And I would plan, how long are they going to be off if it's vaginal? How long are they going to be off if it's C-section? Because if mom has to have a C-section, she does need a lot of hands-on help.
yeah.
Now, your husband works for a great company that's that gives paternity leave. That doesn't happen a lot in America.
It was really such a lucky case scenario, and then also to have parents here and like, it w yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Not the
So,
general case for other
yeah.
people.
Yeah. So, what I would recommend is, let's say for those individuals that do have a partner that has to go back to work after 2 weeks, because that happens a lot. Like there's
It's a
no paternity
reality.
leave or partner leave. They need to go back to work in 2 weeks. Then you need to think about who is going to help you. Is there family that can help you? Is there friends that are going to be able to come and help you? And I would recommend almost having them start when your partner is going back to work.
Okay.
If
So
you're
even if it is the
limited,
doula, like, tell the doula that it would be, like, after the partner goes back to work.
I mean, that's going to vary on a case by case basis because it also depends on your partner. And,
Fair.
some partners at the beginning are very apprehensive to want to deal with the little baby,
Mm,
especially if, what I've seen is, especially if there's an older child, then they rather,
okay.
oh, let me take on the older child and you deal with the newborn because they're a little
Yeah,
nervous holding the baby.
yeah.
But
They're so
so
fragile.
this is like a case by case situation. You know your partner, you know what they are and are not capable of.
Yeah,
But I do think these are conversations that you need to have when you're pregnant.
yeah.
Do not wait until after you have that baby to start thinking about help, to start thinking about, okay, you're going back to work in 2 weeks. Well, what is your what is your responsibility going to look like when it comes to the baby? Okay.
Mhm.
And that is a big thing because, okay, I understand you're working, but it takes two of us to have this child. So, what are your responsibilities going to look like? Is it that you get home, you get an hour to yourself, and then you are in charge of bathing, sleeping, putting the baby to bed, etc. Like it cannot all fall on the mom, even if the partner is going back to work. That's
Yeah.
the biggest mistake. The other thing is, who do you want to come help you? How long do you want them to stay with you? Um, just because people are coming to help doesn't mean that it's good for the mom's mental health. Like, everyone has a bandwidth of how long they can be with their
Yeah. I
mother-in-law, or
Yeah.
you know what I
Mhm.
mean? Or
No,
with
no, no. I even want to add to that, just that bullet you're saying is to also what do you want them to help with specifically? Even to
yes,
think about that. Like, do you want them
yes,
to just do laundry, cooking so you can be with baby? Do you want them to help with feedings if you're, doing pumping in bottle or formula so you can have some time off to take a shower or you want to cook,
yeah,
whatever it is,
yeah.
have an idea because the person coming into your home also is going to try to help the way that they think is helpful, which might not feel helpful at all to you,
Not at
you
all.
know?
Not at all. And I think it's like using your voice and empowering yourself to have those conversations because, I'm not going to sit here and say that your mom or your family or whoever is your support system may get offended. Like, well, I said I would do this for you and now you're telling me you need me to do a load of laundry. But
Yeah.
I but one thing you have to remember is now that you're a parent, tough conversations comes with the job. You know what I
This
mean?
is
Like,
something I remember from my first pregnancy talking to you about, and you were such
yeah.
a pillar of support for me because
Yeah.
it is strange to now start advocating in this different way towards your parents about parenting your own kid.
Exactly. Exactly, because you are the parent, and that's
Yeah.
hard. That's hard for the grandparents.
Mhm.
Um, but at the end of the day, you're never gonna learn your baby if the grandparent is like, "You need to do X, Y, and Z." That may not
Mm.
work for your family, And let's face it, when we were born compared to now, there's so many more regulations and research
Oh,
on sleep, safe sleep, and blah, blah, blah. And, none of our parents are going to read any of that stuff. So they're like,
no.
oh, I did this and it worked. Okay, but no, there's a
Exactly.
lot of data that shows that doesn't work anymore.
I feel like
Um,
even swaddling was a foreign concept to our parents,
oh,
like,
yeah. Yeah.
when we had Leander, they're like, "Why are you, like, tying him up?" And I'm like, "We're not, it's just
Yeah.
swaddling."
Yeah. So I think it's important to have those conversations, come up with a plan of who's going to help you, what type of help that you want them to give you, with the caveat being that once the baby gets here that they may change. That may
Fair.
change. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? Because you may say, "Oh, I want to bond with the baby. I want to be with the baby. I want you to do cooking and cleaning." And then the baby gets here and you're not getting any sleep and now you're like, "Okay, I don't want that. I want you to watch the baby so I can take a couple naps a day." So
Yeah.
that's the thing too, is giving them a heads up like this is the plan now, but I do not know what that's going to look like when the baby gets here. The other thing is asking for help and not being afraid to talk about what you need, but then also asking for help and not feeling guilty about it. Like think about it. How
How do
many
you encourage women to do that? Because I think even without children, we are really thick-skinned about asking for help in general. And that was actually one of the questions I had for you, so I'm so happy you're bringing this up because I
Okay.
think it's such an important bullet point that you're making. But for those of us who think that we know how to ask for help, but really at the end of the day, we don't because we're so used to being independent and self-sufficient, and we come from single mom homes where maybe we didn't see the dynamic of two parents doing things together, like things like that that contribute to our conditioning where we're like, we can do it all. Like, what would you say to encourage those moms to be like, this is a good where place to start for asking for help or whatever? What anything you have to say towards us mommies like that?
So this is what I say. If your friend, your best friend, for you it's Pam, for me it's Katie, right? Or
Mhm.
your cousin,
Mhm.
if they were suffering and they were really struggling with something that they really needed help with, wouldn't you want to know?
Definitely.
Wouldn't you want them to come to you and say, I'm really dealing with X, Y, and Z, and I need your help
Definitely.
because you love them.
And you
So
want to help them.
and you
Like,
want to help
happy to
them.
help. Yeah.
Exactly. So why wouldn't it go the other way for you?
I like that
You know what I mean?
perspective. Yeah,
Exactly.
totally.
I say, even same thing for me. I want to help you. If what I'm helping you with is not beneficial for you. So, for example, I always bring like the food. If I say, "Hey, Laura, I'm going to come and bring dinner for you, Brian, and the kids," but you already have 10,000 casseroles in the fridge. As a friend who wants to help you, I want you to tell me, you know what, Evie, I have a lot of casseroles, but you know what? I could go for like a cup of really good coffee from this place that I adore, you know,
Mm. Yeah.
using that voice. I
Mhm.
think sometimes as women, it's difficult for us to advocate for ourselves, but let's start now when you're pregnant and postpartum, because at the end of the day, as your children get older, you are going to be your child's best advocate. So
Fair.
let's start getting our feet wet with advocating for us and the support we need, because eventually it's going to get to a point where you are going to have to advocate for your child, whether it's school, whether it's friends that they're having issues with. It's going to happen. So let's start a little bit now, and don't be afraid to ask for help. And listen, at the end of the day, I don't know what people's reactions are going to be. They may very well be like, well, the old school generation, I offered this and how dare she ask me.
Yeah.
They'll get over it. Like, that's because like I say that all the time, and they're like, oh, I feel so bad. I think my mom or this and that. Okay, they love you, right? Oh yeah, my mom adores me. They'll get over it. They may
Yeah.
be in their feelings for a day or two. They may even, like my mom, make it known that they're in their feelings, but eventually they will get over it. And that's
Yeah.
what you have to remind yourself. Like, you
That
have
is
to come
true and
first in your
fair.
family. Yeah, they're going to get
No,
over it.
definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I love that you point that out, that the advocacy is really something to practice on yourself because
Mm.
it is gonna be a huge, and it's probably gonna come easier to advocate for your kids, but you should be doing it just because, it's easier to, like, fight for someone else's rights versus your own sometimes as women. Like, for some reason, it just feels more, like, justified because they deserve it versus you talking yourself off the ledge like, "Oh, I don't really need that special coffee,"
But
where, like, that's
why?
totally true.
Okay, but why do they deserve it and why don't you deserve it? Because you are the person who's taking care of the child. You
Right, and
deserve, yeah.
absolutely, and I feel like it's because you feel like you want to protect or you feel like maybe they can't or won't do it, and you want to just be that. It's really like turning the mirror on yourself and saying you can advocate just as well for yourself that you would for your children. Because I just think it's
Hmm.
that, like, maternal thing over your kids or even over a friend. It's like even
Yeah.
like the example I use, if you see your friend in a toxic relationship, it's just clear as day how terrible everything is. When you're in a toxic relationship, you have the rose-colored glasses on, and I'll tell, anybody and tried to tell myself this back in my 20s that, like, what would I be telling my best friend to do in this relationship that I'm in? Right? Like, if I was
Yeah.
in a toxic relationship, it's like it's kinda that you see things a little bit fuzzier for yourself than you would for the person you love next to you kinda thing. So,
I love what you just said there because I do think that that's something too as a new mom that you can even say to yourself. Like
Mm,
if if Evie was struggling mentally with this transition of a parent, you know, what would or you like what would advice would you give? You would
yeah,
say to Evie, "Hey, I'm here to help you. What can I help you with?" So you need to be able to do that for yourself.
yeah,
um and listen, there are some people that are not comfortable having the conversation. So if that means that you need to send an email or a text message, so that way if you don't get the response you want or something says something that miffs you, it gives
mhm,
you time to process it before you give an answer. But
fair.
because I know sometimes that people
Mhm,
don't do well with having that confrontation face to face, but then write a letter, write an email, write, a text message, and just give it time for people to respond, or you respond to them if they say something that upsets you.
totally, totally. I think that's a great practice to have
Yeah.
in general, but definitely in postpartum.
Yeah.
I
And
feel like so
again,
much of this can be applied to, like, normal women life, but this is, like, a heightened time to be extra resourceful and just leaning on all of the support and tools that we could possibly have.
and I also think too, it's important to set boundaries. Um,
Elaborate, girl. Talk
yeah,
about we love
I
boundaries.
think that, and this is where you and your partner, or whoever you're co-parenting with, this is where, again, these are conversations to have during pregnancy. You
Mm,
know, if you know that you can only handle, and I always say the mother-in-law because it's something that always comes up. Um, if you know that you can only handle your mother-in-law for like a week or two, then you and your partner need to be on the same page about that, because it
fair.
can't be like, "Oh, no, no, but I want her coming for a month." Well, I don't think she can come for a month because I think that would be very difficult for me. The other thing with boundary setting is even with friends. You may have friends or family that are like, "Oh, I'm going to come see you in the hospital. Let me know the minute you get home. I want to come over." No, say to
Mm,
them, "I will let you know when I'm ready to have visitors."
mm,
There are some people that are okay with people coming right when they get home. There are some people that I know like having people just come to the hospital because it's timed and they only are
right,
allowed to
fair.
be there for a certain amount of time and they don't feel like their house needs to be put together or anything. And then there's some people that prefer neither and will wait until the baby has been fully vaccinated. It goes
Mm,
down to you as an individual being comfortable with what you want, and then making sure that your partner who you're co-parenting with are on the
mm,
same page and supporting one another with the boundaries that you're putting in place, and make
okay.
those boundaries known during pregnancy, so that way when the baby gets here it's not like, wait a minute, I can't come in a week, you know? So I think it's important to have that conversation as well, and for you and your partner or co-parenter to be on the same page with that.
I couldn't agree more. That's, I think, excellent, excellent advice. Because if you don't, you're gonna learn the hard way, unfortunately, and you don't want a bumpy
Mhm.
road during those first, like, you wanna avoid all the bumpiness and the
Yeah.
awkwardness possible in those first few months,
And
definitely.
if you do have a partner, because I actually had someone share this as an idea that
Mm,
they did. She said that her husband's mother really wanted to come for like a few months, and they paid for her to stay in a hotel or an Airbnb. And they said, "We'll
that's
do
fair.
that so that way at night we get a break and she'll get a break." And they
Yeah.
framed it with, the baby's not sleeping really well. We want to make sure that you're getting enough sleep. So therefore, we're going to pay for you to stay in a hotel for X amount of days or just stay for an Airbnb. You can be here the minute the baby wakes up to the minute the baby goes to bed at night.
Yeah.
And I remember she said that the mother-in-law actually ended up appreciating that because she was able to get a little bit of a break, but still be there to support her grandchild, her son, and her daughter-in-law.
That's an amazing boundary. I mean, I feel like boundary sounds so negative, but it's not at all. It's like
It's
that's
not.
also realistic and human. Like
Yeah.
people during a stressful or transition, like stressful situation slash transition like that, like everyone needs their quarters or their pockets of like alone
Yeah.
time. And that includes the help that's coming to help, because it
Mhm.
is an overwhelming environment to walk into.
Yeah.
I like those pointers a lot. I think parents, women, as much preparation as possible. Like, I feel like we spend so much time preparing for labor and birth, and there's just unfortunately so many other things to also be preparing for that have longer stints of taking up our time and energy, like the fourth trimester and postpartum and all those feelings. I have to be honest, I feel like my first pregnancy, I was very much aware hormonally of the potential of me having my crashes and the tears and my ups and downs or maybe hormone rage or whatever. But when I was actually in it, it was just something so much different than like what you try to set yourself up for. And I don't think I focused on the
Mm.
fourth trimester enough at all
Mhm.
last time. And
Mhm.
this time, even from like a birthing plan approach, like having the doula, having just the aspect of a doula helping and coming in and saying, okay, regardless to how you give birth to this baby, it can be empowering, it can be spiritual, it can be yours. It doesn't have to be that it's all happening to you. I think can contribute a lot to, hopefully contribute a lot to how I will feel postpartum versus my first time around when, I was induced, then in labor for 30 hours, then into a C-section,
Yeah.
or there was just so much processing that, I mean, there is going to be, it doesn't matter obviously how much prep and mapping you do, but I think it helps mitigate some of it for us to be really open about the reality that the postpartum period just it rocks us, and for us to have the support and the resources and the I think like the reality and the awareness to lean on them, because that's really, like I said before, one of the hardest things I think I went through in postpartum is, first of all, realizing that I was in postpartum. I didn't until it was much later.
Yeah.
And being able to even just have like a list of like, an example support group written down, or this time around, my doula actually had recommended that I have like pre-set up virtual sessions with my therapist
Oh,
for the
I
first
think
6 weeks.
oh, that's perfect. I highly, highly recommend that. For anyone
Like,
who has a
good.
therapist that they're working with, set up those sessions virtually right to happen those first few weeks. Absolutely. Because your
Okay.
hormones are going to be all over the place and you're adjusting from having one child to having two. So I think that was a great idea.
Yeah, same. Because to me, I was like, "Oh, it's like my time off." Like, I'll like I told my therapist already, like, "Oh, I won't see you the month of March, and like I'll touch base in April and let you know like when it would all be virtual when I start going back anyway." And then after I'd met with my doula, I was like, "Okay, like, can we just set up, like, 2 dates?" Like, I'm not gonna do the every week, thing that I do now, but just at least 2 dates in the month of March to just have a check-in
Love
virtual.
it.
I can dump on her for everything and just stuff like that.